Hey folks, my name is jselleck and I am demonstrating the platform engineering architecture capstone, and hopefully it'll be fun. I apologize for any background noise and coughing. I do have a cough, so let's get going. So part one of the overview, I need to show all running components. So I have a terminal here. So I can say K, which is group control, get pods -a, and you can see everything's running. Argo CD, Teams operators, UI, Gatekeeper, Falco, DNS, Grafana, Prometheus, etc. So next up is describe my architecture. So I did a little bit of an expansion, but here's my architecture. Observability plane, we have Grafana installed with a pseudo generative AI operator that updates status, and we'll show that a bit later. Remind me that I need to enable that here in a bit. And then essentially we have from the developer control plane perspective, we have a Node.js UI and a Python CLI. And actually, I think that might be a React UI. And then we have those that point to platform orchestrator aspect, which is fronted by the Teams API. Which generally would be backed by persistent storage. In this case, it's backed by SQLite. We also have an applications extension that I've added so that we can manage applications. I would say that in production or in a large environment, this may be brought out into a microservice and path-based routing, or fronted by a API gateway. In any case, we have several operators that point at those APIs as well, and those operators manage resources, or the state of the resources. We have a Teams operator, which essentially creates namespaces with labels on them, prepares kind of the application space. And then we also have the this app status operator, which is actually an operator that goes and retrieves all the applications and runs several kube control and or Kubernetes API queries to figure out kind of what is the status of this, and based off that output, it will send that to Gemini and say, hey, give me a representation of what's wrong or if it's healthy. I originally tried this with Olama and tried several different large language models inside Coder. It did not turn out well, so I ended up just hopping over to Gemini for that. We also have a apps get operator, and essentially that watches the apps and creates repos and deletes repos as needed in my personal GitHub account, and we'll see that in operation here in a sec. And then we also have an apps Argo CD operator, which essentially drops an Argo CD app into the Argo CD namespace. However, it points at these repos and pulls in a Argo CD rollouts manifest and deploys applications, which you'll see here in a bit. We are using Docker Hub as a registry for these applications. And then our pipeline, CI/CD pipeline, more just CD pipeline, I should say, is Argo CD with Argo rollouts, rolling those applications out. Of note, most of the tooling for the orchestrator is not currently in Git or managed by GitOps. I am just pushing those manifests in. However, the applications are. And then from a resource plane perspective, this is all running on Coder in a kind cluster or K3s. I don't remember. The security control plane or policy control is managed by OPA Gatekeeper, which prevents root escalation, running as root, amongst other things. And then Falco runtime, which is actually on top of that, kind of that defense and layer. Falco runtime can watch for instances where that may actually happen or accidentally happen. So that said, kind of this architecture is kind of falls under the mantra of manage infrastructure at scale using operators for infrastructure and GitOps for applications. So that is the architecture. From a security perspective, let's try to run a container that runs as root. So I will go over here, and this is connected to my cluster. So you'll notice admission webhook validation gatekeeper denied request. Container root test is configured to run as root. So this denied it, and also Falco likely saw this as well. So next would be gatekeeper blocking it, and I showed that output. And I mentioned Falco more than once now. So Teams UI, let's jump into that. So you can see here we have the Teams UI. I will log out and then log back in. You'll see integration with Keycloak. And there we go. And it is reminding me and thanking me for my easy to remember password. And so I will put my information in here. Say I want a team called, how about sales? And I will create that team. Let me create another team called Groundhog. I don't know why. First thing that came to mind. All right, there's sales and Groundhog. So next thing is create team through the web interface. We did that. Show the team in the list. We did that. So we need to verify that the namespace exists. So we'll go here, show labels, and now we have team Groundhog, namespace with all our labels, cells with all our labels. Wahoo! Oh, one thing I forgot. I need to enable my status updater operator because I set that to 0 because I didn't want it Gemini billing me all night. Although I do have some logic that looks for change, and it shouldn't query Gemini too much, but I just wanted to be sure. So that said, let me arrow up, make sure that's running. We have status updater operator. It is running, and we'll see if it works here in a bit. And delete team, let's show cleanup of this namespace. So we'll delete Groundhog because he wants to go back into his tunnel. Boop. and groundhog is disappearing, and got namespace, so it's easier to see. Where'd groundhog go? Team. Yep, no more groundhog, no more team groundhog. Okay. All right, so next, verification, show operator logs. So let's look at our operator logs. And I promise I'll show applications here in a minute. Operator logs there, deleted namespace, reconciled, etc., etc. You can see that I've played a bit more than just with these. And then run CLI. So team CLI list. You can see here that I have teams in there. And then while I'm here, I have team CLI alias to T. So when I hit enter, you can see that I have other items here like list, get, delete, create, etc. So let's create another team from here. Create team, and we'll call this, how about Platypus, since this is a platform demonstration. So we created the team Platypus, and then I have this app list thing here. So if I list applications here, I show none. So I'm going to go to the GUI and show this a little bit. So let me refresh. You can see now I have Platypus team, and I'll expand Platypus, and let's let me add a application here called Punny, and we'll start with a normal application. And while we're at it, let's start with another application. Let's go with a dark application, and we'll call this privileged an application. And let's go over here. We can see in Git we have essentially this. We have a Platypus Puny and an app template. So I'm pulling from app templates. You'll notice we have Golang, normal, PHP. When these applications are created, I am essentially using them as a template and filling in the Argo CD rollout here. So you can see all those settings here. This is set as a canary, wait 50, duration 20 seconds. So between replicas, it'll pause 20 seconds as it kind of rolls things out. And then you'll notice if I go back here, let me refresh. Oh, look, we have Platypus Dark created now as well. So if I go back over here, we can see Platypus Puny is healthy, although Dark, which is privileged. Let me look at this. This status rollout failed due to admission webhook reaction. Enforce Argo root prevention. Recommended. Check container security context in your development manifest, blah, blah, blah. Make sure it's running as non-root. So that totally, some of that came from the regular output, but some of that was generative AI. You notice if I go back to my applications and I look at this, I go app list and see applications here, and I can see, hey, look, the status here, it's running as root. This is not a healthy status error. This one is healthy. So we can validate that. I think the other item that I had created was PHP app, which I could do as a PHP. I think it's this one. Let me go look. So I'll validate that it is this one. Go back to app templates. My app templates, PHP. So we have a rule that we tag all our workloads with the data classification that they are running. So in this case, this workload could run classified data, or unclassified controlled information would be a better classification to use in this case. But that said, what happens here? We created, we'll look at that in a minute. That was a spoiler. We created a, I'm looking for my UI. We created a application, an OPA admission webhook that denies data type, that denies this label. So that's just an example of one way you can set up gatekeeper OPA policies to block based off label as well. So that said, I can show in Argo CD we have 3 applications that we've deployed. 2 are processing, and they can't deploy because they're not allowed to because of OPA. But this guy was able to deploy, and he deployed 2 pods using a rollout. You can see here Argo rollouts is deploying the infrastructure, and you'll notice I'm down to 1 replica on most of these because I was trying to make room for my large language model, which ended up not working. But so here I have, let me refresh this because it's not showing. You can see these are adding the namespace in. So we have Team Platypus with our 3 different things, applications, Dark PHP app, and Puny. You'll notice Puny is all the way rolled out and the other 2 are not. And then yeah, so now I need to show cleanup. So before I do that, let me make sure that I'm all the way through my list. Show operator log, CLI, state consistency, yes, between the UI and the CLI. And then we have question and answer. Feel free to email me. You've seen my email, or Slack me in the class channel. Happy to answer questions or get on a phone to discuss more information about some of the things I've done. But let's clean this up. So we have cells and platypus right now. So let's go back. Let's see if this worked. So we should have our repos should only be platypus because this is based off of applications. So we have 3 platypus items. We already showed that when we delete an application, the namespace gets deleted. And then the other thing was let's delete these applications. Delete and delete. And I might as well delete the 3rd just for fun. And I'll leave the team up for now. So while these, notice those got deleted. And then our Argo rollouts. You know, I've noticed these kind of hang on in maybe Argo rollout cache land. But I know the rollouts have been deleted because those namespaces have been cleared. So let's let's delete that namespace just to clean things up. maybe we have some additional bugs that we need to work out in there. I don't deny that, but anyway, I think this concludes the demo. Um, I think the other thing I needed to show, actually, it was Grafana that we have it set up, and we are able to kind of manage our applications by namespaces and whatnot, given even the default dashboards. So, for instance, if I wanted to go look at pods in a specific namespace, I could go look at the specific namespace. Let's say engineering platform. That's probably the most interesting. You'll notice we have 64 megs of. Yeah, so anyway, so those are the stats and metrics for the pods and infrastructure. And there was something else I wanted to show. Let me, with one last thing, I will do K namespace engineering logs services status updater operator service, just to kind of show Google API, Gemini query failed, fetch 2 applications, error rollout failed. So we're getting information back from Gemini here. And then you can see it's fetching on a regular basis the applications. And it's skipping the LLM query because nothing changed in that particular item. So anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I appreciate it, and have a good day. Hey folks, I wanted to record one last thing. It was a neat thing, so let me spin up one team real quick, the Yeti team, because I'm not Yeti done. And then let me create an application called Pops and make that a normal application, and let me call Moms and make that a Golang application, add application, and we'll wait here a bit and let that provision. While that's provisioning, you can see here that the status is changing. That loop for demo was brought down to like every 7 seconds, just so it would update and be a bit more interesting for the demo. In real life, may or may not want to do that with the. So the one thing I wanted to show was that it does actually work. So if I click on this, it creates an app that essentially is a Python-based app pulling from my registry, and I can get jokes here. So this line doesn't actually do anything, but the code stops working when I delete it. So there you go. There's your joke for the day. And if I go to Moms, I can Yeti Moms and see that. Notice it's pointing at localhost 17,000. Essentially, I have an Nginx proxy at that port pointing in and doing path-based routing to the particular namespace and application. So that is all. Thanks. And I am here all day. Bye.